The job sounded straightforward. Watch a 4-year-old while her parents went to work each day. But by the end of one particular morning, the family's young au pair was standing outside their Fairfax County home, telling police that she had just fired a gun at an intruder inside. The 23-year-old from Brazil had just witnessed and even been involved in the unthinkable.
Then I saw this car, strange car, and I called her, why the car is here? I don't know who it is, but it was a straight to voicemail, so I couldn't talk to her. And then I called Brendan, it's her husband.
Okay.
And we went inside. And then we went upstairs first, and then I went to see what's going on. And I heard the guy was, I don't know what.
It's okay.
I don't know what was doing. It's spanking her. I don't know.
You like what?
It's spanking her. I heard, like, I don't know what was that. And Brendan said, police dropped the knife.
It was tragic and terrifying, but the circumstances appeared fairly clear. An armed intruder had broken into the house and attacked a woman while she slept. But the truth was not so simple. The man was not just an intruder. He was much, much more. He had come to the home with a purpose that was problematic. But he wasn't the only one with plans. Welcome back to Crime A to Z, where we detail cases and criminals from their very beginning until well after other reporting ends. Today's case unravels like a slow-burning psychological thriller. We're diving into the Banfield and Ryan murders. Many murders stick to a pretty predictable pattern. Lie, cheat, rage, kill, lied again. Sadly, the typical stuff. Well, not today. In this case, the alleged killer reached deep to come up with the most insanely over-the-top murder plot that anyone could have possibly come up with. And just when you think you know the full truth about what actually happened, trust us, you don't. So be sure to stick around for the chilling unraveling. Let's go. The first call to 911 came in at 7:47 a.m.
Fairfax County 911, where's your emergency? Hello, Fairfax County 911.
On the other end, they could hear a person moaning, and then the call disconnected. Whoever was on the line hung up after just 8 seconds. Dispatchers were left with nothing. They tried calling back, but there was no answer. Since the call was coming from a cell phone, they had no address, no voice, no clue what kind of emergency they were dealing with, or whether there was any emergency at all. But they wouldn't have to wait long. At 8:02 a.m., nearly 15 minutes later, the same number called 911 again. This time, the caller spoke. Brendan Banfield told dispatchers that he had shot a man because that man had stabbed his wife. Police rushed to the Banfield's home in Herndon, Virginia. When they arrived, they found Juliana Perez Magalhaes. She was a live-in au pair who cared for the 4-year-old daughter of Brendan and Kristine Banfield. She was a mess. Her voice cracked, her hands shook, and she kept repeating things. But eventually, between the sobs and pacing, she gave police just enough to work with.
What's going on this morning?
I was going out.
It's okay, take a breath. It's okay.
I was going out with her daughter.
Okay, yep, yeah. She's sitting over there.
And then I forgot our lunch to bring it, and I was coming back to the house to get the lunch. Then I saw this car, strange car, and I called her, why the car is here? I don't know who it is, but it was a straight to voicemail, so I couldn't talk to her. And then I called Brendan, it's her husband.
Okay.
I told him, I see a strange car, but I don't know who is that. Can you please come in here? I'm scared. I was just following the car. And then he came here, and then we went inside. The guy, I don't know who it is, he was spanking her. I was just people here.
Were you here when it happened, or did you walk up in there and
No,
that's how they were?
yeah, he went upstairs first, and then I went to see what's going on. I left Valerie in the basement, and then when I went upstairs, Brendan was saying, "Police, drop the knife."
So,
And-
Brendan's a police officer.
Yeah, he's an officer.
Is he with Fairfax?
No?
Where is he an officer?
I don't know. I think it's he was officer in Vienna.
Vienna?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was saying like, drop the. I'm sorry, my first thing, which is
No, you're doing really well.
He was saying drop the. Oh,
The knife or the gun?
the gun. And Brendan said, "No, police, don't drop the knife." And then he was saying, "I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna kill her." And I don't know. He started stabbing her. I think Brendan shot him, and he asked me help to shot him too because.
It's okay. You don't have to get it all out right now.
I never
Just
saw her
breathe.
before. Like,
You didn't see the girl before either? So the guy and the girl you don't know?
She's my boss.
Okay.
He's Valerie's mom. But I never seen it before. Like, it's a lot of blood.
The 911 calls had been made from Juliana's phone. On the final call, Brendan had taken the phone to tell the 911 dispatcher what happened. To understand how Juliana ended up in that house, we need to start with the people who brought her into it. Juliana had come to the United States from Brazil on a work visa. She was in her early 20s and was hired to live in the Banfield home as an au pair or live-in caregiver for their daughter. She had been living in the Banfield home for just over a year. Her responsibilities were typical of the role: childcare, morning and evening routines, light help around the house. She had her own bedroom and quickly became part of the household rhythm. According to those familiar with the family, Juliana was polite, soft-spoken, and largely kept to herself. Brendan Banfield was a federal law enforcement officer with the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, where he investigated financial crimes like tax fraud and money laundering. Those who knew him described him as private, reserved, and intensely focused. His wife, Kristine, was a pediatric ICU nurse described as compassionate and deeply devoted to their daughter. Colleagues said she lit up when she talked about her family. Together, the Banfields lived in an upscale home in Herndon, Virginia. Brendan confirmed Juliana's account, explaining to police that Juliana had called him and told him an intruder appeared to have entered their home. He said he found the intruder stabbing his wife in their bed, so he shot the man in self-defense. He also said that Juliana retrieved a gun and fired a second shot at the intruder. Juliana confirmed that she did indeed shoot the intruder a second time. Police's next order of business was to secure the child.
Hey, help me.
Can you come down with me?
Anybody else say blow? Okay, she's breathing. She's got a lot of stab wounds.
I think Zach just saying
My
We're getting the ambulance here now.
My host kid is downstairs.
Okay.
I'm here.
How old's your host kid?
She's 4.5.
Four and a half? Where is she?
I need to talk to her. She doesn't know anything. What's
Can we get her and we'll go outside?
I'm gonna get her.
no, not this year. I think she's upstairs. Where do we
Hey, she's grabbing their 4-year-old. We're gonna go outside.
Okay, perfect.
Just please.
It's okay. Yeah.
She's just 4.5.
I know this is hard. Let's get her outside, and then I need to get some information from you.
Hi, Val.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, I'm Officer Bell. Nice to meet you. Do you want to go outside with us?
We need to go outside, okay?
Let's go.
Meanwhile, other officers continued checking the rest of the home. The scene inside the bedroom reflected a brutal confrontation. There, it found 37-year-old Kristine Banfield, naked, with multiple stab wounds to her upper body. Nearby, they found the intruder. His name was Joseph Ryan. He had gunshot wounds to his head and chest. Joseph was pronounced dead at the scene. Kristine was taken to the hospital, where she later died. Police and forensics teams processed the scene and collected evidence, including devices. Juliana was taken to the station, along with the Banfield's 4-year-old daughter. The two were taken into what's called a soft room, where police questioned Juliana for about 90 minutes. They then took Juliana into an interrogation room, where they questioned her for over 7 hours. Juliana explained the morning's nightmare events to police again, filling in any missing details. One of the details included how when she and Brendan first entered the home, she said they could immediately hear what she described as sex noises coming from upstairs. It was an important detail, one that pointed to the possibility of an affair gone wrong. Juliana reiterated that Joseph was stabbing Kristine, so Brendan shot him in the head. She said afterward Joseph was on the floor, but still moving. So upon Brendan's request, she went and got a second gun from a bathroom safe and fired that second shot into Joseph's chest. While the case appeared to be an obvious intruder and self-defense scenario, a few things didn't add up, like the intruder. While very little is publicly known about Joseph Ryan, law enforcement did report that he had no criminal record or history of violence, and he didn't have any apparent link to the Banfield family. Police found no signs of a forced entry. If Joseph had not forced his way in, then how had he ended up in Kristine's bedroom? His personal items were even neatly placed in the home, not at all consistent with the break-in. Kristine's body also raised questions. She was found naked on the floor in the couple's bedroom. Her stab wounds were deep and deliberate, as though carried out by someone who wanted her dead, not by an intruder who panicked during a break-in. Another detail that stood out was the second gun. After Brendan shot Ryan, both he and Juliana said that he sent Juliana to get another gun from the bathroom safe. She said that Joseph was still on the floor moving when she shot him in the chest. That begged the question, why send Juliana off to get a second gun if Brendan's gun was still in his hand? They did not report that the first gun jammed or was out of ammunition. It started to feel less and less like self-defense. Police would leave it for forensics to sort out the details. The timing of the 911 calls also raised suspicions. Nearly 15 minutes passed between the first hang-up and the final call where the incident was reported. An incredibly long time to wait before calling for help. That unusual delay made investigators wonder what really happened during those minutes. So, they were eager to see where a digital trail might lead them. And it did not disappoint. It didn't take much digging to learn how Joseph ended up at the Banfield home, and why. The digital trail pointed to an invitation for some after-hours extracurriculars of the fetish variety. Joseph was not an intruder at all. He was invited. Police found a string of online messages between Joseph Ryan and someone named Anastasia9 on a fetish and roleplay website called FetLife. There were over 100 of these message exchanges to and from Kristine's devices, including her work laptop and personal phone. They'd been communicating for at least 6 weeks leading up to the killings. The chat started on FetLife, then moved to the messaging app, Telegram. In those messages, the plan was clear. Hook up for a consensual role-play meetup at Anastasia 9's house. The conversations outlined rough play, even blood play, an arrangement in which one person deliberately makes small cuts with the intent of drawing blood. They also mentioned a knife as part of the scenario. Joseph had been drawn to the house for a rape fantasy scenario. They had agreed that he would bring belts, zip ties, and a knife to cut their pajamas. Instead of a break-in, it all read like a well-orchestrated plan. Joseph had even confirmed a 7:30 a.m. arrival time set for the morning it all happened. But law enforcement was immediately suspicious. Although the messages came from Kristine's devices, most of them were convinced that it wasn't Kristine who was sending them. While the messages referenced highly personal details that only someone close to her would know, it lacked Kristine's usual writing style and tone. That indicated to them that someone with intimate access to her life and technology was impersonating her. They concluded that Joseph had been lured under false pretenses, catfished into coming to the home. But by whom? Despite the majority of detectives agreeing that someone other than Kristine was behind the messages, when an expert with Fairfax County Digital Forensics investigated, he did not find any indication that Kristine lost control of her devices. His evidence pointed to Kristine herself being the person who sent the messages. And he wasn't alone. The lead detective in the case also disagreed that Kristine was being impersonated, feeling that the digital evidence did not support it. The whom was type in question quickly became the center of the case. In the months after the killings, police kept digging. As the investigation stretched on, detectives returned to the Banfield home and noticed changes that raised concerns. Juliana appeared to have moved into the Banfield's bedroom. 2 water bottles, presumably for Brendan and Juliana, now sat on the nightstand where Kristine's lotion had once been. And the photo of Brendan and Kristine had been replaced with one of Brendan and Juliana. Investigators also learned that the Banfield's 4-year-old daughter had started calling Juliana Mommy. With those observations added to the case file, nearly 8 months after the crime, police decided that they had enough to act. On October 19, 2023, Juliana was arrested. She was charged with second-degree murder and use of a firearm in the commission of felony in the death of Joseph Ryan. She faced a sentence of up to 10 years in prison. With Juliana behind bars, law enforcement continued building their case, watching and listening. As soon as she was arrested, authorities began monitoring her phone calls from behind bars to Brendan. During one call, Juliana told Brendan, "I hope you're not only staying with me because you're afraid I'll turn on you." Brendan is reported to have replied, telling her to remain silent and to stick to the accounts she gave police. They'd monitor her communications for 11 months, but she doesn't divulge much else to help authorities gain any more insight into the killings. But it was of little consequence. Any additional evidence gathered during the calls would have just been piled onto the mountain of other evidence they were gathering, much of which was presented in pretrial and evidentiary hearings. Starting with, to no one's surprise, prosecutors claim that Brendan had engaged in other prior extramarital affairs. In addition to the evidence the prosecution said reflected Brendan's affair with Juliana, they also spoke of what they called multiple credible women, who reported also having had affairs with Brendan. They reported that he constantly promised to leave his wife, and prosecutors said that he had even told one woman that it would be so much easier for us if she, referring to Kristine, was not around. Authorities also learned that Brendan had allegedly bought a gun 4 months before the killings, despite already owning an IRS service weapon. The serial number on the purchased weapon matched the serial number on the gun recovered at the crime scene. They also obtained records that reflected that Brendan and Juliana had visited a gun range in the weeks before the murder. They were even able to obtain photo proof, confirming that Juliana was indeed there. Also at issue was how, at the scene of the murders, as paramedics tried to save Kristine, law enforcement said that Brendan did not even ask about her. Instead, they said he asked whether Joseph had a pulse, then justified his inquiry by referring to Joseph as the one witness who could recount events if he survived. Paramedics also found that both bodies had been moved. Prosecutors said that Joseph Ryan's arms were crossed and smeared with Kristine's blood in a way that Joseph could not have achieved after being fatally shot. The arrangement, they claimed, suggested post-incident staging. Overall, prosecutors theorized that in the 15-minute gap in between the two 911 calls, someone other than Kristine or Joseph had used the time to repack Joseph's backpack and place the knife between Kristine and Joseph. Then there were the calls themselves. Brendan claimed that Juliana's phone was misplaced when 911 tried calling them back. That's why they didn't answer it. Prosecutors called that claim preposterous, noting that Brendan himself also had a phone that could have been used. Even the pajamas told a story. In the message exchanges, Joseph was told to bring belts, zip ties, and a knife to cut off pajamas. In the bedroom, police found pajamas cleanly cut on the floor. Those clean-cut pajamas matched the plans outlined in the messages, unlike torn clothing, which would have been more consistent with a struggle. It was a visual breadcrumb connecting the online plan to what was found in the room. It helped the prosecution argue that use of the knife was planned, instead of it being a random weapon in a home invasion. And then, of course, there was that damning digital evidence. The communication trail that authorities believed was part of a grand scheme to lure Joseph to the Banfield's home, then to murder him as though his life was completely disposable. With Juliana the only one arrested at that point, her defense team was prepared to push back, especially regarding the digital evidence. During pre-trial hearings, they cited testimony from the investigation's lead detective and forensic expert, who had both concluded that Kristine had not lost control of her devices. They drove their point home by highlighting the fact that both of those men were ultimately reassigned off of the case, a move that the defense claimed was done to silence those who questioned the department's narrative. They claimed that law enforcement was bending the facts of the investigation to fit their theory. Alongside the case against Juliana, investigators were quietly zeroing in on Brendan, who had remained free during the year and a half since the killings. As a result of law enforcement monitoring the couple's communications, they began to worry that Brendan was planning to flee the country. They learned that Juliana and Brendan had reservations to fly to Brazil, and that a new Brazilian passport was obtained for Juliana. They also said that Brendan was studying Portuguese and had purchased a power adapter for Brazil. They said the pair had also discussed living in Brazil during Juliana's jail calls. In Juliana's defense, her attorney said that he had advised her to get a new passport because police wouldn't return the old one. Regardless, law enforcement was not taking any chances. On September 16th, after months of surveillance, multiple search warrants, and monitoring of his calls with Juliana, Brendan was arrested. He was indicted on 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. He had just been fired from the IRS 2 weeks prior to that. It was a year and a half after the killings and just under a year after Juliana was arrested. Her trial was scheduled to take place a few weeks from then. Brendan was facing a potential life sentence without the possibility of parole if convicted. He requested that he be released on bond so that he could be free to care for his daughter awaiting trial. The prosecution argued that he was a flight risk, and the court denied his request. He would remain behind bars until his trial. 2 more charges would later be added to his case: felony child abuse and neglect, and felony child cruelty. Prosecutors said Brendan's 4-year-old daughter was inside the home during the violent events. Even though she was not physically hurt, investigators said the charges were based on what the child may have seen, heard, or been exposed to during what they believe was a planned attack. Prosecutors were confident they had a strong case against 2 lovers who planned a wife's murder for months. Heading out that morning, leaving the door unlocked and ready to execute 2 innocent victims with a plan so convoluted that no one would ever figure out that they were at the center of it all. Juliana's defense knew how strong the prosecution's case against her was. So, by late October 2024, with her trial just weeks away, Juliana accepted a plea deal offered by the prosecution. In exchange for pleading guilty, Juliana's charges were reduced from second-degree murder and the firearm charge to voluntary manslaughter. As part of the deal, she agreed to testify against Brendan, cooperate fully with prosecutors, and be deported to Brazil once her cooperation was complete. She agreed to provide a full statement detailing her involvement in the killings. Her account aligned with prosecutors' general version of events, but no one was prepared for the details she so casually unleashed. She explained how Brendan immediately rejected the idea of a divorce to deal with his marital problems.
And then I asked him, we're going to divorce her? He said, that's not what I'm thinking about. And then he explained that he was thinking about finding a way to just get rid of her out of the picture.
She described how Brendan was the mastermind, and how it was his idea to create the fake profile on the fetish website to lure someone to the home to perform the rape fantasy. She said that he instructed her to look for a particular type of person to fill the role.
Somebody that sounded like violent and was kind of playing the way he wanted the person to play. So then that's when he started talking to Joe.
39-year-old Joseph Ryan responded. Juliana admitted that she and Brendan were the only ones communicating with Joseph, not Kristine. And while they were doing so, she alleges that Brendan took her to that shooting range to learn how to fire a weapon. She also described how Brendan made modifications to the home, including buying expensive soundproof windows prior to the killings.
They changed like the whole house, the whole type of a window.
She even described how she said they tested them out.
And then I went outside in the driveway, and then he went up to the bedroom, and then he started like screaming and yelling to see if I could hear anything from outside.
And?
I barely hear. I couldn't really hear like much.
She described how Brendan pretended to go to work on the morning of the murders, but actually just sat in the McDonald's parking lot 6 minutes away, waiting for her call once Joseph arrived. With Kristine upstairs asleep in the bedroom, they had hidden her phone in a kitchen drawer and waited for their plan to unfold. Juliana said that she had a gun that Brendan had given her and told her to carry that morning. She described how she and Brendan had made sure that when Joseph approached Kristine, her reaction would be acceptable to him.
We told other people before that it was kind of part of the game where the person gets in the bedroom and then I may act like scared, like try to run or try to scream, but like or if the person starts doing something, she would just get kind of freaked out and try to resist, but it was like part of the game.
They had arranged for Juliana to leave the house with the daughter under the guise of a morning zoo trip where there would be other au pairs. Kristine agreed and bought the tickets for the zoo. Juliana and the daughter got into the car for that pretend trip, then waited until Joseph showed up.
And then that's when Brendan had instructed me before, as soon as I see Joe's car, for me to call him like right away. And that's what I did.
Juliana called Kristine on her phone that they'd hidden in the kitchen, as she said Brendan had instructed her to do. Kristine, of course, did not answer. Juliana called Brendan as planned as well, and he came rushing home. Brendan arrived at the home, and he, Juliana, and the daughter went through the rear basement door. They left the daughter in the basement. Then the pair proceeded up to the ground level of the home, near the stairway leading to the bedroom level.
He just did like this to me, wait, and then I stopped, and then we were both just listening to that sound. That was the real sound we were listening to.
What did it sound like?
For me, I mean, slapping.
She then goes on to describe how the two of them ascended the stairs and entered the room. Brendan, with his gun drawn, announcing himself as law enforcement. She said Joseph was on top of Kristine on the floor. She said that Kristine called out, "Brendan, he has a knife," and that Brendan immediately shot Joseph in the head. Juliana then described Kristine's reaction.
She was like, oh, like, why'd you do this? Call 911. And I said, Juliana, specifically, Juliana, call 911.
That's when Juliana made the first call to 911. She said she hung up after Brendan was gesturing for her to do so. She said that once she hung up, she saw Brendan take Joseph's knife and begin stabbing Kristine in the neck.
What did you hear her saying to Brendan as he was stabbing her in the neck?
He was stabbing her in the neck. She was just telling him, let me go, I'm gonna die anyways. I'm gonna bleed to death. She was just, leave me here, let me die. And then he was telling her, I can't. I don't know why he said I can't.
Either while Brendan was stabbing Kristine or afterward, Juliana said that Joseph was still moving and that Brendan instructed her to shoot him again. She did, in the head. She said that after she shot Joseph the second time, Brendan began manipulating the crime scene.
How did Kristine Banfield's blood come to be on Joe Ryan's arms and hands?
Brendan did.
It would be nearly 15 minutes later before they were prepared for their official call to 911. In addition to acknowledging the affair between her and Brendan, she also acknowledged that the child had indeed begun referring to her as her mommy.
When did first begin to refer to you as her mommy?
I do not remember when exactly.
With Juliana's plea deal, there would be no trial for her. Her sentencing was originally set for March 21st, 2025, but prosecutors requested a delay until after Brendan's trial so they could gauge the full extent of her cooperation. It's reported that prosecutors have recommended a sentence of time served if she fulfills every part of her plea agreement, including full cooperation in the case against Brendan. If their recommendation stands, she will not serve any additional time beyond what she has already spent in custody. So, after sentencing, she is expected to be deported to Brazil and released. Juliana's sentencing is currently scheduled for December 13th, 2025, which is 2 months after Brendan's trial, which has not yet taken place as of the production of this video. His trial is currently set for October 20th, 2025. In late September 2024, it was reported that Kristine's parents were seeking custody of Kristine and Brendan's child. Since that update, her circumstances have remained justifiably private, hopefully allowing her the privacy to be raised in the safe, stable, supportive environment every child deserves. Juliana Paris Magalhaes remains in custody in Virginia as she awaits her sentencing, currently scheduled for December 13th, 2025. There are no public reports of her life behind bars, based on the prosecution's recommendation that she be sentenced to time served. If she cooperates, she is expected to be deported and released once sentenced. Brendan Banfield remains in custody at the Fairfax County Adult Detention Center awaiting trial. The court granted permission for the trial to be televised. He is facing a maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole if convicted. His trial is currently scheduled for October 20th, 2025, which means that if it proceeds as planned, it will likely be taking place right around the time this video is released. If we see interest in this case in the comments, we'll be sure to post a trial update. We hope this video did justice to Kristine and Joseph. All cases are tragic, and we never want to minimize any cases. But somehow, when an innocent, uninvolved outsider becomes meaningless collateral for the sake of someone's ruthless, selfish agenda, it takes on new levels of cruelty. What are your thoughts about this case and those involved? Let us know in the comments. And please don't forget that if you happen to like how we presented this case, we really appreciate a quick like, and be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.